So Little Duval decided to talk to us. I'm not sure why he keeps doing that. I'm not certain what we did, but he seems to think that this is what we deserve. So he tweeted, "Man, Black Mirror done got gay now." Grimace emoji, faceplant emoji. To be fair, the vast majority of the responses are people just clowning him because, hi, hello, have you seen San Junipero? Been gay, boo, been. But there is a small subsection of people who are responding in like, saying, oh yes, this was so difficult to watch, and yes, they are furthering the agenda. And they're not just talking about the homosexual agenda, no, not just the traditional gay agenda. They're talking about this very specific agenda that many people believe is out there to feminize Black men. Now, it is some people's belief that Black people are especially homophobic. We're not. We're not more homophobic than other people. We're just as homophobic. It's just that our recipe is a little bit different. Like if homophobia were a sauce, everyone has their own base. And our base tends to come from our notions of humanity. If you spend a couple centuries enslaved, you can kind of develop a complex. And so for many of us, our notions of humanity are really rooted in these genderized experiences. Our notions of womanhood, our notions of manhood. And so many Black people want to scream from the mountaintops, hi, hello, we can have a traditional, healthy, successful family where we have a woman who is soft and docile and nurturing and caring. We can have a man who is a provider and who is strong and who is a protector. And we get really sensitive about anything that threatens that. Homosexuality threatens the heteronormative traditional gender roles to which our humanity notions are rooted in. Humanity notions, I don't think those words work together, but I said it. It's out there now. If you are a homophobe, and if you are someone who's super sensitive about your Black identity, your identity as a Black man, Black masculinity, any of that, this would be a very uncomfortable episode to watch. Striking vipers is not your cup of tea, but it is mine. Not that anybody cares about my opinion, but I decided to rank all the Black Mirror episodes, and this fell in my top 10. Does that mean anything? I don't know, but I think it does, because this season was kind of, it was 3 episodes, it was what it was. I think that this episode was like the most interesting and intricate exploration of sexuality that I've seen in television. Now, I could just be uncultured and uncouth. I don't know, maybe there's some other stuff out there that I ain't seen, but I ain't seen it. This episode just did a really good job at like just touching on attraction, male sexual exploration, sexual context, and they even threw a little bit of gender identity. Like they put their freaking foot in this. That's my foot. Sorry. I don't know. That was actually my kneecap. Gray on gray. Get into it. I think what so gets me about this episode is how it talks about attraction. And I think that that's been like missing from our discussions on sexuality as a whole. We've started to kind of get into notions of asexuality. We do understand that there are people who do not experience like sexual arousal or spontaneous sexual arousal or sexual attraction. But we also do recognize that they can still have healthy, happy, non-platonic relationships. They can have romantic relationships because they are not, in fact, aromantic. Apparently, I had a stroke and I died while trying to explain aromanticism, but an aromantic is someone who does not experience romantic attraction. They typically don't desire traditional committed partnership. They can and often do, however, experience sexual attraction and sometimes have sexual relationships. The point is that when you realize that physical attraction and emotional attraction are 2 different things, then they can be experienced together, but they can also be experienced separately. Individually, totally independent of one another. And you can experience attraction differently based on gender. And Black Mirror really digs its teeth into that subject. Now, we all done seen a damn episode, so I'm not going to do a whole plot overview, overhaul, but let's just walk through their experience together. So Danny and Carl are besties. They're emotionally attracted to each other. They don't realize that this emotional attraction could be more than platonic until they meet each other in virtual reality as Lance and Roxanne. Now, I actually do think there's a chance that Carl might have known, just because there's a lot more going on with Carl. We did get that good little moment where Carl like play humps Danny's leg early in the episode, which, foreshadowing, obviously, but also a nice little way of addressing how a lot of heterosexual men have to navigate male intimacy. We've kind of hypersexualized male touch in such a way that we feel that men only really seek physical intimacy for the purpose of sexual gratification. So a man can't really touch another man without it being gay. So what a lot of straight men do is they like adopt this pseudo homoeroticism in their friendships. And they playfully like over-sexualize themselves, and they're like, ha ha ha, isn't this so funny how like I'm all over you and stuff, because it's like gay, but we're not gay. This is so funny, and I'm joking. But actually I'm not joking. I'm just trying to touch you in a way that's socially acceptable because I desire human physical contact. I desire physical intimacy. Human beings need touch. Babies die without touch. Let men touch each other. It's okay. Whew, but I digress. That happened in the episode. Carl might have known. Carl might have had some indication. He does make the first move, and it seems like throughout the episode that's pretty consistent with him being the initiator. Maybe. Carl and Danny's relationship becomes more than platonic in virtual reality because they're both finally in bodies to which the other is attracted. We know that they're not physically attracted to each other IRL because they had that little kiss, and was it raining? Am I imagining the rain? I feel like in my mind I'm remembering the scene and it was wet. Had like a wet feel to it. I don't know about that. But they had that kiss. No bueno, no connection. They're not physically, sexually attracted to each other. It's only when Danny is in Lance's body and Carl is in Roxanne's body that they can really connect, that the two are bridged, that emotional attraction is there, that physical attraction is there. They reinforce that yet again with that nice little infamous dinner, that infamous dinner scene. Carl says that he's had sex with other players controlling Lance. It wasn't the same thing. He's attracted to Danny specifically. Danny's conscientiousness, Danny's spirit, Danny's essence, Danny's whole being, Danny. He's attracted emotionally to Danny. You know, this episode would have been really interesting from Carl's perspective, right? Because he's got a lot going on there. If I understand what he was saying correctly about his explorations in the game, then Carl has experienced heterosexual sex as a man, heterosexual sex as a woman, homosexual sex as a man, and homosexual sex as a woman. And then, throw in bestiality too, because the polar bear. Carl is just experiencing different types of sex, different types of gender identities, unlike Danny, who, for all we know, is still heterosexual when it comes to physical attraction. You know, in the game, he's still having sex with someone who is anatomically, physically a woman. He's still having heterosexual sex. Carl is having sex with a man who looks like a man as a woman in a woman's body. There was that little exchange after their first consummation where Carl says, I guess that's us gay now. And Danny says, it doesn't feel like a gay thing. For all we know, Danny still is like technically heterosexual. Maybe he's biromantic or panromantic, if we want to put a label to it. But Carl's the one who has an interesting little mixed bag going on, especially when you consider the fact that he is so comfortable in a woman's body. Because what does that say about his gender identity? Does that mean that he is both feminine and masculine? Does he identify with both men and women? Is he non-binary? Is he nothing at all? Is he everything? We don't know. They didn't tell us. But it's something to think about. And while we're thinking about it, we can think about the fact that a lot of men are not afforded this opportunity. Carl had a very unique opportunity because, well, I mean, most of us are just not going to have sex in both a male and female body with male and female bodies and with polar bears. That's just not something that is realistically viable. But men are not allowed to explore their sexualities in the same way that women are. You know, women can go out to a bar, get a little drunk, share a little kissy kiss just because it's funny, or just because they're feeling the liquor, or just because they want to try it, or the crowd is egging them on for the attention of men, and then they can go home and call themselves straight. We have no problem with that. You're straight as an arrow, girl. A man can't even conceive for a second of entertaining the thought of engaging with men in some non-platonic way without being identified by other people as a 6 on the Kinsey scale. Is there anything wrong with being a 6 on the Kinsey scale? No. But damn, can they just figure it out? They're not allowed to just figure it out. They can't just kick it with a dude. Not one time for the fun time, just a little relax, just like, I just want to sit with you. Let me just hold your hand, see if that feels nice to me. I want to know. Not to just fixate over Carl's sexuality and putting a name to it, but we like that. We like naming things. It makes it easier to communicate with other people. It's okay to label things sometimes. So to put a name to it, if we must, we can explore what Carl likes. Clearly, Carl is interested in both women and men. I'm actually not so sure that Carl is romantically attracted to women. To support my thesis, I cite the fact that that man is almost 40 and he is not married. He's a ditty. He's not been in a like super long-term committed relationship with a woman. And at the point that we really get to know him, he's in a relationship with a woman who's his junior by like about 10 years, I think. And it's very clear that they don't have an emotional connection. We see them sleeping together. We see him kind of bragging to Danny about her and about how she looks. Yeah, he doesn't really like the girl. The girl doesn't really like him. They just be kicking it in silence. Girl don't know who Dennis Rodman is. How old is she supposed to be? She doesn't know who Dennis Rodman is. I know who Dennis Rodman is. I feel like I'm younger than her. I'm a little insulted, but don't know when this episode is set, so I'll let you have it. But Carl is definitely emotionally attracted to men and definitely physically attracted to men. It's not my job to try to like assign or pick out or suss out what his preference is, but I could easily see his preference being men, but he's had to stifle that his whole life. And I think I would be remiss to not mention just how not only does the game just give him a very unique opportunity to explore these different pairings that they would never be able to explore outside of virtual reality, but then it also kind of gives him an out. You know, he was very quick to tell Danny, you know, this is like porn, this is not real. He's really leaning into the fact that this is a synthetic reality. So him having sex with men, that's not real. It's a game. He had sex with a polar bear, but not for real. His body was in a chair somewhere. His mind was in a cloud. It's not real. And the fact that Carl has to really lean into the fact that this is a synthetic reality to be able to explore his sexual identity, the fact that these experiences aren't really real, is just a testament to how, you know, vicious we can be about male sexuality and how much we punish men for having anything other than a heterosexual sexual identity. How grave the consequences are for a man who dare to explore outside of women. Popping in again from the future just to specify that yes, there are consequences for queer men on a macro level, but that there are also consequences for queer men on a micro level depending on what subgroup you belong to, and that there are specific consequences for Black men within the Black community because of our identity politics. Ooh, sexual context. That is also something that they touched on. Just kind of like a little nugget. They didn't really get too far into it, but it was definitely there. It was definitely there. Emily Nagoski wrote a book called Come As You Are. Lots of people have heard of it. It's kind of, I guess, a cult classic amongst, like, health and sexuality books. Is that even a thing? Can those types of books have like cult followings? Maybe, I don't know. Come As You Are is a book about female sexuality in particular, but some of this stuff is applicable to other gender identities. Nagoski talks at length about, the difference between like a sexual trigger and a sexual break, and how they're totally separate mechanisms that can be working with each other or against each other at the same time, at separate times, blase, blase. So basically, sexual triggers are things that tell you to get aroused, to get ready, and sexual breaks are things that tell you, slow your roll. Context was one of those things that can be like a trigger or it can be a break. Biology might tell you, I'm ready to go. Context says, this is a Wendy's. Is that a dead meme yet? That's probably a dead meme. But setting can tell you, I can't, nope, not right now. Sexual context seems to factor into Theo, and I wonder if her name is Theodora. It factors into Theo and Danny's relationship. They have that conversation on their wedding anniversary night, and Theo mentions the fact that their life is boring. And for all intents and purposes, she might be correct. Danny might be associating his wife, and then by extension sex with his wife, with his boring life, his boring job, his boring son. Boring life, boring sex. Sex with Carl, or sex with Carl as Roxanne, is super exciting because, hello, hi, did you see that closing shot? They're having sex on top of abandoned buildings in like abandoned, broken down districts. We know that it matters to them because there was that like cute little glimpse of an exchange when Danny goes to text Carl that he actually can't meet him in the game because anniversary dinner that he forgot. They actually were discussing where they should meet in the game. So clearly context matters. They like doing it in different places. It's exciting. Danny and Theo are having sex in their same little tired bed with them ugly manila sheets. Boring. To Danny. Probably to Theo too, hell. Shoot. But that's another element that compounds this sexual experience. And then, of course, we have like the little arrangement at the end where they're exploring a different model of relationship. I don't know if it's like technically like an open relationship with very strict rules about when it can be open and how it can be opened, but it's interesting. Yeah, it would be interesting to even like see more from Theo about where she is sexually, because I don't know if she's having sex with other men because like it's just fair, or if she just finds it more exciting too. We don't know. Again, they leave us with many questions, or at least they leave me with many questions. Maybe y'all are confused. Maybe y'all are just like, damn, they really going at it in this game, I guess. Is that it? I don't know if that's it, but it's enough. Really important conversations that need to be had about how we understand sexuality, how we understand our own sexuality, how we understand other people's sexuality, and I hope that that makes its way into common public discourse soon. Okay, I need to take my ass to sleep, and I'm already in bed, so lazy girl hat.